What's up, YouTube? I finally passed the PNPT certification. So today I'm going to go through some of the reasons why I failed in my previous attempts. And I'm also going to give you some tips that will help you if you are planning to sit the PNPT. So after failing the PNPT twice, I finally cleared this exam on my third attempt. And it was a fun journey, although not easy, but fun nevertheless. So I'm going to go through again what the practical network penetration tester exam is and what you're required to do. Now, this is strictly hands-on, and I love it because it validates your ability to perform a penetration test both internally and externally, and also to write a professional report. Now, this gives you a rundown as to how to pass the PNPT exam, but I'm going to give you some more tips that I think will help you on your journey and when you're doing your exam. So it requires you to perform open source intelligence and gather intelligence on the target so that you can use this information to properly perform external and internal attacks. Now, after this, you're going to write a report, and this is equally challenging in terms of writing a report that will include everything that's in there. And it also will determine whether or not you pass this exam. So make sure that you spend time. If you do get to the domain controller and are writing the report, make sure that everything is included in there. So I'm going to go through some of the reasons why I think I failed in the first two attempts and then give you tips to passing your exam. So as you know from the first video where I failed in my first attempt, I think I was definitely not ready for several reasons, and I chose to do the exam under circumstances that did not really give me much time to have like a clear headspace. I was all over the place. I was still at work on overnights and trying to do the exam when I was done with work. So I was very tired, and I think I just wasn't ready. Now, in the second attempt where I came back, I did not have any hints because my report was not received by the support, TCM support. So I came into the exam basically just knowing what the environment was. Now, I was stuck. I did my OSINT and I was stuck at a point for a while, and I did not get a breakthrough until day 5, which was not enough time for me to go further and clear the exam. However, I did reach a step further, and I felt so silly when I found out how I could get into the internal network. And that's one of the reasons why you are being told to keep it simple. So I'm going to go into some tips for passing the PNPT, and I hope that this will be helpful to you if you are planning to sit the PNPT. And before you forget, just remember to like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed as yet, and click on the notification bell so whenever I put content out, you're the first one to get it. So let's get into some of the tips to passing the PNPT. So on my third attempt, I went in with some prior knowledge from the two attempts that I had, and I went straight to it. And it was from one wall to another, but each time when I got to a point where things weren't working or I had no idea, I just took a break and tried to take things from a different approach. This was a real experience that was way different from the CTFs that I have gone through. And speaking of CTFs, while I was preparing, I found that tri-hackney rooms such as Read and Reset, they were critical in helping me to understand certain concepts. But for each person that's sitting the exam, it's going to be different because I did not have a good understanding of port forwarding and pivoting, and I got good information from the Wreath uh, box, the Wreath network. So if you have issues with how to pivot and so on, I would suggest you go to that box in TryHackMe, the Wreath network. And also Reset was a good one as well. I would recommend that you guys go through that if you need any kind of outside source. But most of what I needed was in the PEH course and the OSINT and the external pen testing playbook. So I would advise you guys to watch those videos and watch them again because they will come in quite handy when you're to do this exam. I went through and it took me about 3 days to completely clear the exam, and then I had to prepare a report. Now, this part is important. As I said earlier, you have to make sure that everything is documented. So you take pictures, take screenshots of everything, and make notes so that when it's time for you to make your report, you know exactly what goes where, and you can put things in chronological order. I did my report and I was able to finish my report and submit it. And then they got back to me in less than 24 hours for the debrief. Now, with the debrief, what you have to do is basically explain how you carried out the penetration test and the steps you took to infiltrate the network and take over the domain controller. And this experience for me was pretty good. And as I said, I love the certification because it truly validated my ability to perform a pen test and write a professional report. Now that we've gone through my experience for the PNPT exam, I'm going to give you some tips for passing the PNPT. Now, the first tip that I would say to you is to take good notes. And the reason I say this is because you will need to look back at your notes to find out what are some steps you can take when you get to a certain point. You want to make sure that you write the proper syntax for the different commands so that you don't make any mistakes, because this can be a reason for you not passing the PNPT if you're not taking good notes. The next tip that I would say is to pay attention to the videos in the PEH. I'm telling you, this is critical. Pay attention to the videos in the PEH because they definitely apply to the exam. Everything that you need is inside of that course. So if you've watched it already, I would say go back and watch it again. The third tip that I would give you guys is enumerate. You want to enumerate everything. And what I mean is that you're not only going to use tools to enumerate. Make sure that if you're looking inside of a computer, you go through things, look everywhere, enumerate everything. It's not only through command line that you can enumerate, just like how you're doing OSINT. If you get into one of the machines and so on, make sure that you check everything, guys. And from the course, he has taught us how to look for stuff in the computers, what to look for, how to hunt for passwords and so on. I can't really go into too much details without giving away information, and I'm not going to do that. So the next tip that I'm moving on to is to approach the exam like a real penetration test. It is not a CTF, guys. It's not something where you have to take a particular path. There are several things on there, and you have different ways that you can accomplish your task. It's just up to you to figure out the best and the easiest way. And as Heath says in his videos, you want to get the low-hanging fruits first. Another important thing to do is to keep it simple. Don't overthink things. And what this means typically is that you don't want to think everything technical. Just look at things as they are and try to see if you can get any information that would help you to go further with your exam. Test your tools before starting your exam. This one is very important as well. You want to make sure that all your tools are working. because if your tools aren't working properly, then you'll get results that will not help you and it will waste your time. And you don't want that. Although the exam provides enough time for you to complete, if you waste your time, then it might be a problem for you. So make sure you test your tools to make sure that they're working properly. Next thing is to pay attention to your scan results. One of the mistakes that I made when I failed the second time was to not pay attention to the results, like the details of my scan results. And in retrospect, I realized that I missed a few things that would have helped me to go further on my second attempt. So just bear that in mind. Another thing is that everything you need is inside of the PEH, the external pentest playbook, and the OSINT course. Just pay attention to these guys. A lot of information is in there that's very helpful for you in the exam. Make sure you take breaks and get refreshed and stay hydrated, because if you're not in a good state, then you won't be able to think clearly. So make sure what I did when I was doing the exam was to put a timer on. So I did for 45-minute spells, and then I take a break each time. It depends on the person. However, if you want to do 1 hour or 30 minutes, that's going to be up to you. But make sure you take breaks and stay hydrated. And last but not least, if you get stuck doing the same thing over and over, take a break and change your approach. Sometimes just taking a break will allow you to think about other things. And when they say think outside of the box, this is the time for that. Because if the traditional ways aren't working, then you'll definitely need to make some adjustments and figure out a better way how to do it. Now, when it comes to this point here, when I said to approach it like a pen test and not a CTF, you might be asking the question, well, my only experience is through Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, and they're all CTFs. So how will I approach it like a real pen test? Well, what I would say to that is to treat it as if you're thinking about what the users would do in the network. Think about how users would make their passwords. Think about how the like configurations can be, things that people would do, mistakes that people would make in their networks. And I think that will be helpful for you. Now, when it comes to keeping it simple, you know, I did not understand what that meant until I got to a certain point and I was like, damn, I can't believe that I would miss that. So just keep things simple. Do not overthink, guys. Pay attention. Pay attention to your scan results and watch your videos. So I hope that these tips will help you. And if you are watching my videos for the first time, just go ahead and give me a like and subscribe, and then I will look forward to bringing you more content. Thank you again for watching. See you in the next one.